looks like we're live now, and this is something we're going to be doing more often here at the Ultimate Why to try to connect you with topics of culture change, employee engagement, and leadership development. So today's topic is, why do leadership or management change initiatives fail? Now, McKinsey & Associates, a large research group in the management area, has done a lot of research. In fact, recently in 2018, they did a survey of 3,199 executives about their management change initiatives, how well they did. And guess what? 70% of them failed. So that's a fairly high failure rate, and you can see that kind of failure rate is something that discourages a lot of these initiatives and a lot of delving into leadership development. So they wanted to investigate what were the factors involved in making this successful rather than a failure. So they came up with 4 things. So ready to write these 4 things down. First is a compelling change story. The second is role modeling. The third is reinforcement mechanisms. And the fourth is capability building. So those are the 4 factors that went into the 30% success rate according to their research. And I wanted to go back over these in a little bit more detail according to the article, and give you some correlation with some of the thinking that we have here at the Ultimate Why. So the first is compelling story. Of course, we've all heard how narrative is very important to the millennial generation, and quite frankly, it's something that's part and parcel of all of the generations. Maybe the millennial generation is just a little bit more attuned to that than the rest of us are. The awareness that we have a story that sort of compels us as individuals. It's our core beliefs. If I believe that things are okay, I wouldn't want to threaten them with change. So if my change story actually sees change as a threat, that's probably something that leads towards the 70% failure rate. People have this inertia towards, I'm getting my paycheck, I'm doing well in my job. If I become the sole individual that begins to change and do things differently, then I could be the problem. I could be the source of the ire of my community. So we need a corporate, compelling change story. Another thing that they said that was kind of interesting is it doesn't really work for a change story to come down from on high. You know, just like, hey, we're going to change because of this. If management imposes the change story, it doesn't become accepted. They said they had a story where they showed that if people wrote down their own lottery number versus were given a lottery ticket, they were 5 times more likely to hang on to that lottery ticket, which was an interesting little story saying that, you know, to prove the point that if you create something yourself, then it becomes precious to you. You hold on to it. So that's why they were doing this change story. And the change story needs to come from the bottom up, from each individual, not just from top down. And it needs to tap into ultimate whys, ultimate meanings in their life. So those are a couple of things that we do at the Ultimate Why. We do have a program that develops change story from each individual, each team, from the bottom up. And then we also connect that change story to very deep level ultimate whys in each individual's life, connected to their traits and to their values and to how they do life. So those are very important things in the change story, the compelling story of change. The next is role modeling, which is also very important. Leadership on all levels needs to be engaging in the change effort. So yeah, a lot of times you get a very high degree of buy-in from top management, but then low-level management is kind of ho-hum about buy-in and becoming a role model. Other studies that weren't mentioned in this article that are interesting is that if someone sees 2 or 3 other people doing an action once, they're far more likely to actually repeat that action than if they see a leader doing it 3 times. So it needs to be a role model that is also within the leadership, but also within the culture pervasively. So those are 2 things that the Ultimate Why model actually, we wanted to inculcate into our model, is to have that multi-level buy-in and processing, And we also wanted it to be sort of very wide and broad in the role modeling aspect of things. So that's one of the things that we're doing. And the third, which is like unto that, is reinforcement mechanisms. So a lot of the curricula that we evaluated before, buying into our curriculum, or creating our curriculum rather, was that it'd be sort of like a one-time event where we tell you, here are the 16 things you need to do, and just get them done. And bye-bye, have fun. We found that to be troubling because I've been involved in change efforts, and unless they are sort of consistent and ongoing and reinforced, it's just going to be a binder on a shelf that gets forgotten shortly. And then the fourth is capability building. You need to have some sense of growth in the areas that are necessary for someone to expand their life into the challenges that are being created by this new change story. So if you don't give them a compelling way to get into that, or some tools and resources to do that, then ultimately your change efforts will fail or will struggle. And again, the Ultimate Why has a section in our matrix called the Promise, where people are developing their own mission and their own goals and their own actions for like a 9-week period where they're trying to grow into something new. And so we give a lot of tools into growth, because part of connecting and positive connection is being able to grow into things. People want their giving and their relationships to expand into positive areas. So those are 4 compelling areas, and I'll repeat them again. The compelling change story, role modeling, reinforcing mechanisms, and capability building. Those are the 4 things that lead towards the 30% success rate, according to McKinsey. So we're really excited by this article because the research really reinforced the approach that we're taking here at the Ultimate Why. So we'd love to continue this conversation with you. We're going to be doing more of this kind of conversation next week on our YouTube channel, and we'll probably try to post that on our site as well as sort of a webinar that you can join in on. We'll be emailing this out and communicating with you each week, hopefully a little bit more about how to connect and how to continue the conversation. And of course, if you want to continue the conversation personally with us, you can reach out to us, and we'd love to talk more with you about your change efforts, your culture development, your employee engagement challenges, your leadership development challenges. And this is our mission here, is to make every place a great place to work at. So please stay in touch, and thanks for tuning in.